Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out my review of the 1979 horror classic film, The Amityville Horror. Now, this review was requested by, I don't know if they are a follower or a subscriber on my YouTube channel, but they left it in the comments for me to do this, and it was requested by at Aiden _ 2tact. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I sincerely apologize. But they asked me to review this and wanted to hear my thoughts on it, and I'm more than happy to do that. So if any of you guys and gals have any suggestions on what else you would like to hear me review, rank, or anything, please leave them in the comment section. I know that somebody has also asked me to rank the John Carpenter films and to rank the Final Destination films. I will be doing the Final Destination films soon, but I wanted to wait till the new Final Destination Bloodlines came out so I can include that as well. I've never really liked doing reviews when a new one's coming out. That being said, I love the Dexter franchise and I want to do the Dexter series, but we've got Dexter Resurrection on its way, so that's why I'm kind of waiting to do that. But anyway, like I said, if you want to hear anything of my thoughts and opinions on a movie, please leave them in the comments below. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this review. Now, right off the bat, I have to say that this film really blew me away because I had watched this film years ago. I'm going to say it was probably in the last 15 years. I bought the DVD box set with all three of the original Amityville films. And I don't remember me enjoying it as much as I did this time. I don't know if maybe I was just at a younger age and I didn't have as much appreciation for it as I do now. But now that I watch this film, I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of the film. It's definitely a classic for a reason. And I even enjoyed the fact that it didn't even show a whole lot of bloody or gory scenes, and it didn't have a whole lot of language. It didn't really have a whole lot of effects in the actual film, but they played off of the paranormal aspect of the Amityville Horror. They played off of your fear and what you're expecting to happen, and I think it was done very well. Right off the bat, I will say that when the opening credits start off, the way that the eerie music is brought into the credits, and as the Amityville house is in the background, it already gives you the creepy vibes. I really enjoyed the opening credits. The music was perfect in this film. And the way that it had that black and red tint to it, as far as the opening credits, really gave you, I would say, vision of what you're fixing to get into. I could definitely see watching this film back in 1979 and going and seeing this, and even with opening credits already, hunkering down in your chair or getting that uneasy vibe, because I really enjoyed how they did the opening scenes. We start out, of course, with the DeFeo family getting murdered. I do like the fact that they didn't actually show Ronnie DeFeo going to each room, and, if you know the backstory, you know what's already happening. And I like how it would show the house and you would hear the gunfires and people, screaming and stuff like that. You already knew the impact that it was making. I really enjoy that aspect. That's one thing I like about some of these older films, is they don't have to show you everything. Nowadays, the films have to show you. It has to be right up in your face. You have to see every kill, every gore. This one leaves it to your imagination, and I really dug that. I really enjoyed the cast in this film. We have the one and only Margaret Keider, I believe her last name is. She played Kathy Lutz. I know her as Lois Lane in the Superman films. We also have James Brolin as George Lutz. We also have, Rod Steiger, I believe his name is. He's Father Delaney. And then, of course, we have Natasha Ryan, and she plays Little Amy. One thing also, too, that I like about in the opening credits is the way the house is lit inside. It almost looks like the house has these evil eyes looking at the camera. It's the way, I guess, they had the lamps in the room at the top where the windows are. It makes it look like it's just an evil looking face on this house. Just something so simple with the lighting. I thought that was a great job. I thought they did a wonderful job on that. and makes you actually fear the house because the house is what's evil. And that's what I really like about this story. So after we get the recap of what happened with the DeFeos, we go into 1 year later, and now it's the Lutz moving in. And I will say, I did enjoy everybody's acting. There was just a couple times that I felt like George Lutz kind of phoned it in a little bit. Like I said, I think a lot of them did good jobs as far as their acting ability, but there was just sometimes that he would come off very dry, and I don't know if that's what they wanted him to be like, but there were sometimes that I just felt like there were situations where his son later on in the movie is coming down the steps to the basement and he falls and he just kind of looks over at him and he's like, "You okay, son?" Like it was no big deal. His son just fell down the steps. But I will say he has wonderful facial expressions, and as well as his dynamic with Kathy. Kathy and George, they played off great together in this film. I like how, you know, the children are Kathy's children, and, you know, he's married into the family now. But you don't get that vibe when they first appear on camera. You feel like they're a happy family. And I also, I actually forgot that George wasn't their father until later on when he starts getting possessed and stuff. But they really played off each other very well, like a loving family. And like I said, I feel like Kathy and George played off great with each other, which I really enjoy Margaret's acting. I've always liked her acting. And James, I thought he did a good job as George Lutz. But like I said, there was a few times that I feel like um, he could have gave it just a little bit more I guess you could say. But the children, I forgot that they didn't really focus a lot on the children in this movie. I mean, Amy was the main child that had a bigger role, but the two boys really didn't have a big part in the film, which I'm guessing because I had watched the remake not too long ago that all three of the children had a major part in it. I really thought that they would give more lines to the boys, but overall, with what they were working with the characters and stuff, I thought they did a really phenomenal job with them. I will have to say the standout performance in this film was Father Delaney. I think his first name was Frank in the film. His acting was so great. I think when he came to the house to bless the house and how he reacted to the house, especially the flies and when he was getting sick, and then later in the film when he's trying to convince the church to do a cleansing of the house and he's telling that family is in trouble. Man, his emotions in that scene get you behind him because you can tell that he has the passion and he's wanting to save this family. I thought his acting was phenomenal, and I hate the fact that, you know, he ends up blind in the film. But like I said, overall, that man, I feel like he stole the show. He stole every scene that he was in. Really, really enjoyed his acting. Now, this just may be me, but I didn't really feel like there was a whole lot of jump scares in this film. And then again, it may be because of the age gap and the timeline that this film came out in the late 70s. But there wasn't really anything that ever made me totally get terrified on, except for one spot in the film that made me actually jump. And I was like, gosh, dang it. And it was so loud. And it's where George is walking into the house and the black cat jumps out at him. That actually made me jump. I was like, oh, dadgummit. But it's normally cat scenes like that or dog scenes where they jump out at the human normally don't get me. But it was timed so perfectly that everything was quiet in the scene. And when the cat jumped out, yeah, that was pretty terrifying. And I kind of chuckled at it because I was like, really? Out of everything in this movie so far, a black cat scared me. One thing that stuck out to me in this film was the camera shots. I think the camera shots were handled very well in this film. They really stuck out to me a lot, and they were positioned at the right place at the right time. I feel like one of the shots that really stuck out to me was when George is already being possessed, and he's constantly cold, and he don't want the fire going out. The camera is actually in the fireplace, and George is putting the logs in the fireplace, and the fire is right in front of the camera. You see George's face. You can tell he's pale, he's sweaty, and then Kathy's behind him. It's just the fact that the camera was able to capture that whole surrounding. I really enjoyed that. Even little stuff like to where right before Kathy's brother's getting married and he loses the money. It's the way the camera is shot, where the money is under the couch, I believe, and it's just little shots that it makes you feel like sometimes you're a fly on the wall. I really dug that. That really stuck out to me. I will say everybody's facial expressions in this film was really well. Every actor, I feel like, when they were scared, you felt like they were not acting, not playing around. They were legitimately scared. And one of the scenes that really impressed me was when it's toward the end of the film and they're downstairs, and I cannot remember the woman's name, but she constantly has a bad vibe about the house. Well, she goes down there, she gets the pickaxe, and she starts knocking the wall down. Well, after they get the wall down and they discover everything that's going on, George's face, he's really red, looks like he hasn't slept in months, and his hair's all wild, and he's looking terrified. The woman's face is terrified. Everybody that's down there in that scene is just mortified of what they're seeing. I think that was so directed well. I think the cinematography in that scene was well, and every actor and actress knew what they were doing. I think their facial expressions really captured how they were feeling. I thought that was really good. One thing that actually blew my mind was the dream sequence, where it shows George killing Amy, and then when Kathy runs in there and she's screaming, he turns around at her and kills Kathy. That was a pretty violent scene. I will say that I forgot about that scene until I watched it all these years later, and that really shocked me. I'm actually surprised for this being made in '79 that made it on the screen, but it was a pretty violent scene, and just made you realize what George is capable of doing, and the way it was played out, it almost made you not even realize it was a dream sequence, like it legit happened. But yeah, I just feel like this film really holds up after all these years. One scene that really made you feel bad, and that really was like, almost to me, had me on the edge of my seat of being like, George and Kathy needs to hurry up and get home, is where the babysitter is watching the kids. And when she goes into the closet, she's talking to Amy, and Amy's like, keeps talking about Jody. She keeps seeing Jody. And when the girl goes into the closet, all of a sudden the closet door shuts, and she's like, okay, Amy, open the door. And she doesn't like being in there, and she's starting to get a little bit more panicky. I get that, because I'm claustrophobic. I don't like being in small spaces. And the way that girl handled that situation of hitting the door, and then I forgot about she was hitting it so hard that she starts bleeding from her hands. And then all of a sudden the light cuts off and she starts panicking. I felt every bit of that scene. And for Amy just to sit there and watch all calm, you almost get aggravated at Amy, but you got to remember that she's just a child and Jody's the one that did it. And she's just following along with her friend. But yeah, that scene, it was one of those that when George and Kathy gets there and they run upstairs, they open the door and he's like, it doesn't even lock. The way the girl comes out of there, the babysitter, and she runs over there, she grabs Amy and she's like, why didn't you open the door? That was such an emotional scene. I'm probably going to say that's one of my favorite scenes, because I felt that. Like, as I was watching this film, I was organizing some of my horror Blu-rays over here, and when that scene happened, I just had to stop and watch every second of it. I think, to me, that was one of the more scarier scenes of the entire film. But then later on, we actually get one shot of Jody, and in this film, she's portrayed as a pig. I don't know if that was ever in the original books that was released back in that day. I don't know where that came from, but they only show you one glimpse of Jody, and it doesn't linger on it, which is good, because you don't want to. That's the scary part. You don't want to see something for so long, because then you can start picking out, oh, well, that looks fake or that doesn't look good. But I really enjoyed that. The only other time that we get a glimpse of Jody is when Kathy walks into Amy's room and she's like, you scared Jody. And she's like, where is she? She's like, she ran out the window, and she looks out and there's two red eyes looking. Now that was a trip. That was also well. So that's one thing I really enjoyed about this film, was that it played off your emotions. It didn't have to be boom, scare jump, and or you see this ghost or you see something like that. It's just old school horror film that, like I said, I really think it messes more with your mind. And I guarantee you that some of the people that absolutely love this film, if they go back and watch it, let's say like myself, I hadn't seen it for years, and I could have swore there was a lot more uh, gore and there was a lot more jump scares. There really isn't. It's just honestly a trippy movie. And the third act of the film, when they're finally getting out of the house and they're driving off and they don't want to leave their dog, and I can't remember the dog's name, but George goes back to get the dog. That whole scene, you're just it's intense. It's thunderstorms. It's raining the entire time. The family's in the vehicle waiting for their dad to return with the dog. And overall, I just got to say that I still think this film holds up after all these years. I really don't have anything negative to say about the film, to be 100% honest with you. Um, I know, I guess I would say when I used to watch the remake all the time with Ryan Reynolds, that one did trip me out, and I'll get into that when I do a review eventually on the entire franchise of the Amityville Horror. But that one really relied on jump scares and stuff you like, the gore you got to see and stuff like that, where this one didn't have to. And George was so convincing in this film that he was going nuts that you didn't know if he would hurt the kids, if he would hurt his coworkers, hurt his business partners, hurt his wife. I just really feel like they handled it very well in this film to where um, I was really, I can't think of anything else to say except they just handled it to where you didn't know what was coming next. And I really, really thought that was good. And I really think that they handled it perfectly. If I was going to grade this film, oh man, I would have to give this film an A minus. I think still it holds up to this day. And I think it's a great watch. And if you haven't watched this film in a long time, I highly recommend you to go back and watch it. Because like I said, the music is perfect in this film. The camera shots are amazing. I think the casting is wonderful. And like I said, I feel like they put you into some really creepy spots without it even really being anything on the screen. That's hard to explain, but overall, I dig the film, and I hope you guys and gals enjoyed my review of this film. And like I said, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. But if you have any suggestion on what you would like to hear me review or rank, please leave them in the comments. And as always, God bless each and every one of you, and until next time.